Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. I'm putting my microphone in the right place. I just saw it across the way. Can you all see and hear me? This is the third day out after Verizon supposedly fixed my internet. I don't know how Amazon got in there, but welcome to everybody who is in the chat room. If you can hear me, just let me know, and you can see me because I've had these issues in the last number of videos, but the last two have been pretty good. Great start. Yes. Okay. Now, by the way, if you haven't been here before and you'd like to be in the chat room with these wonderful people over here, please do join Patreon below. $5 a month. Come to all the chats, 8 different shows a month. And I appreciate the support for the channel. Okay, you can see and hear me. All right. Now, all right. Let me talk about the elephant in the room. Let me calm down. People have been like emailing me, texting me, messaging me because I did a video recently about a guy named TurtleBoy who was just arrested in Massachusetts because he was arrested for witness tampering and harassment and a whole bunch of other things. And he has a channel, a very YouTube channel and a blog where he is very much in favor of Karen Reed. She is a woman who went out drinking with her boyfriend, who was a police officer, and she was dropping him off at another police officer's house when something happened, and he was found dead the next day in the snow. And she said, "Oh my God, did I run him over?" Well, apparently seems to be what happened, and they arrested her for hitting him and then leaving him to die in the yard in the snow. However, there are many people who think she didn't do it, and this fellow who calls himself TurtleBoy, he has been wearing this T-shirt, showing up at the courthouse, and he's got people protesting, which to some extent they have a right to do, but he has been coming up with all these theories, which I don't think hold water. And he's accusing people. He's accusing everyone in the house that the officer was going to visit of a big conspiracy to cover up the fact he was killed in the house. And then he's accused literally everybody in town, the police, the ambulance drivers, everybody, of a conspiracy to cover up the fact that he was murdered by a fellow police officer in the house. And it's just not a very brilliant theory. And I find he does these shows like constantly, and he's got a huge following, and he just got arrested. So I did a little show, and I just said for a 20-minute bit on, they finally got this guy, as they should, because he is not just giving an opinion. He is one of these YouTubers that goes into the real world with people and harasses others and tries to basically get the jury to already be tainted before they even get to trial. And he even goes further than that. So they finally arrested him, and I'm okay with that. So you haven't seen my video yet on that? Okay, well, so my video, I did that. It came out. And so let me tell you what happened since then. I always knew there's going to be a fallout. People do not like to talk. One YouTuber doesn't like to talk about another YouTube channel usually because the attacks are very nasty after the fact. Well, you know me. If I see something I consider grifting, not just a difference of opinion, everybody has a right to have a channel and they can do what they want. But when I see grifters out there doing things that I find are very, very unethical, occasionally I speak up. Well, so people have been emailing me and messaging me that this other fellow, he's called Glarer. He has now put up my entire video on his channel, and he is trashing me, and everybody on his channel is trashing me. And and some people have said, well, he can't use your video that way. You should give him a copyright strike. And of course, he has talked about how I copyright strike everybody. That is nonsense. I've only ever given 2 copyright strikes, and both of the people were egregious. And both of the times after I did it, I realized that you actually can't do copyright strikes on YouTube and have any success, because you can strike them, but then they can come back and say, well, then sue me. And then you better have you have to go through a huge process, a very huge legal process. And unless you have deep pockets and a lawyer or a big organization, some kind of corporation, you can't afford it. And they know this. So they can basically steal all your stuff. But I only did it twice. And I was like, okay, I'm done with that because it's pointless. But these two people actually took my video in the whole video and just played it and then earned income off of it. Now, this guy is not actually violating the copyright infringement. He's doing what's called fair use. And he's claiming that I'm going to strike him, but I'm not, because what he's doing is proper. He is showing my video and he keeps stopping it, so he can trash me and explain to everybody how I'm wrong. That is actually fair use. It's like showing a news clip and then explaining how you disagree with whomever is on the news clip. All right. He has a right to do that. And I listened to about 15 minutes of it, and I just started laughing because it was so egregiously bad. Now, he libeled the heck out of me. That's a different issue. But again, is it worth going to, you can't sue people for libel these days either, unless it's like incredible. You have, again, deep pockets. And I'm not going to do that. So, but I just want to show you, now, by the way, when I show you this stuff, I'm only doing this because I like people to understand how things work in the world. And every time I kind of do something like this, everybody goes, oh, Pat, we don't take it to heart. Don't let these people get to you. They're not getting to me. I've been at it for 30 years. I have heard every kind of insult I could have heard for decades. I mean, I still wouldn't be here if it like did me in. But I do think it's kind of fascinating. So I just want to show you a couple of the comments that came in. Here's one. That double chin is grifting. Secret Squirrel says, oh, hell no, not with her sucking her false teeth up. Nope. Okay, the double chin is actually not incorrect because I gained a lot of weight during COVID and I've lost 20 pounds, but it's kind of still there. Okay, the false teeth. You know how many people commented on my false teeth? If I had false teeth, they would look better than this. At 68 years old, if you don't have false teeth or any kind of bridges or anything, you kind of have teeth that look, they're not that great anymore. Sometimes I'm like, kind of like to get those implant things, and then I have really pretty teeth. But this is the kind of stuff. So what I used to deal with was a lot of misogyny because as a female, but now I get misogyny and ageism. I get washed up, over the hill, things that just insulting me for my age, that I'm not wanted any place in the world anymore. So here I am on YouTube. I get that kind of stuff, which, this is the reason I don't like open channels for live shows, because this is the kind of stuff. But then again, I don't have a grifter show. And I'm going to say Blair is as much of a grifter as the other fellow is. I just don't think he's broken the law. He just likes to put on these shows and have people come and trash people on them. And he thinks it's funny. And he thinks it's a cool thing. Do they say anything else about me? Let's see. Oh, yes. Criminal profilers usually hold a criminology degree. I have a master's, but yeah, ignore that. All right. Let's see. She clearly did not pay for that. No slip grip. Oopsies. So stupid. Okay. I'd love to know her criminal background work, in which cases she assisted it. Oh, wait, there are none. Of course, it's not true. That's libelous. But what's interesting is that the guy who runs the show, the YouTuber, also libels me. He claims I have no credentials this is one interesting thing he said. The only reason I got on TV was because I wrote a book. And this was this book is what he's referring to. And he said, Pat, wait a minute, I got to do this backwards. Pat Brown with Bob Andelman. She wrote a book with a co-author. That's the only reason she got on TV. Okay. Mr. Valera guy, because I forgot your real name. All right. I actually wrote this book before that book. And I wrote this. This is my book. All right. After I wrote this book, and I was on TV a lot, I was contacted by Jane Distel and Goldrich. They had Obama for one of their clients. They were literary agents. They had Alabama for one of their clients. She talked to me, and it's very hard to get an agent. She talked to me, and she took me on and published this book. I did have a co-author, not because I wanted one, but because she thought it would be useful, because this was her co-author had done a lot of books with other people who were well known, and it was advantageous. So she forced me into having the co-author. That's why I had it. That's how I got the thing. But again, is this guy telling the truth? No, he has not. He said I didn't do any analysis, but he doesn't even look at my analysis. He trashes me for not having a degree, but I have a degree, having no background, and for writing. This is just nonsense stuff. Well, let me put this back up. It's going to bug me. So, but one of the things. Hold on. All right, there we go. All right. So one of the things he says is that TurtleBoy calls himself a journalist. And I said, well, what kind of journalist is he? Because journalism is in the toilet these days. And he's an independent journalist. That's okay. But I'm not allowed to be an independent profiler. You see, I can't be that. I have to be what? I have to be a profiler who went through the FBI, but I can't be independent. See, these are what the grifters do. And so when they do their channels and they libel the living heck out of you because they don't do their research and they attack you, and then they get their minions to sit there in all the comments and attack and attack and attack. This is what they do. And let me show you another one, which I thought was really fascinating. It says here, this is a person who recently came to me and wanted me to look at their stuff because they didn't think I was right. And they wanted me to look at their stuff, which was hours long. And I said, well, I don't have hours. What are you trying to say? And then she said, well, obviously you don't care about the truth. And so then she got mad at me. So she wrote, Pat Brown, the self-trained profiler, is a total whack job, possibly dangerous to real investigations. And then she goes on to say, she's clearly not interested in case resolution. No, that's not my point. I'm an educational channel. Instead, she's a washed up, see, I told you the washed up word, so-called untrained expert who is afraid to let go of the limelight because of her fragile ego. And then she goes on to say, she has become one of the most hateful and vicious creators on YouTube. Pat Brown also hates to be confronted. It tries to confront everybody else. When they debunk her, she claims to be a victim and then blocks everyone who supports her targeted victims. I'm ashamed that I ever supported her because she liked me until I didn't go along with the program. I was a long-time donator to a channel, but no more. And this is the one that makes me laugh. She is a really sad and unhappy person. Okay, that's redundant. But besides that, I'm sad and unhappy. My life sucks. Nothing's going right for me. What is this a mirror image I'm looking at here? A mirror image. So I'm going to say she is likely sad and unhappy because when a person, she has no idea what my life is like. And actually, I've been pretty open with a lot of my life, and I don't think I've ever presented anything that shows that I'm sad and unhappy. So that she would come up with that is fascinating. To me, that's probably a personal thing that she's dealing with. And then she goes, sorry, it's just making me laugh. That's why I say I don't get all bent out of shape because some of this is just funny. She is really sad and unhappy person who projects her dissatisfaction on others who are happy. Okay. Instead of going to a psychologist, I guess I need therapy. She makes fun of people with a spiritual life. I've never, ever made fun of anybody's spiritual life. And I don't care what kind of spiritual life you have, whether it's an organized religion or not. I've been even with cult situations. I have actually spoken up on people who've been involved in cults and said, stop just calling everybody a cultist and denigrating what they get out of being in that religious group. So she makes fun of people with spiritual life, but if she had some God in her, she would likely be happier. Sadly, she hasn't recognized the karmic effect in her life. So Shiva says, maybe she does understand karma. Oh my goodness. Oh Lord. This is what you deal with on YouTube. It's quite amusing. And of course, the other thing I got, which I thought was kind of a fun one too. And I'm going to get to all my stuff in this. Let me put Shiva on the ground here. Sorry, Shiva, you're in my way. I'm going to get to I have a whole lineup of stuff tonight, but I just wanted to address this. And of course, the other thing I get is that because I have expressions, I'm called drunk a lot. I'm called drunk a lot. And the last show I did, this little 20-minute thing, I was actually getting ready to leave to pick up my granddaughter from school. And when somebody told me about this, what he had been arrested, I went and looked, and I thought, oh, I want to do a little bit about this. I managed to get in 20 minutes as I was trying to race out the door to get my granddaughter. I didn't have time to drink, and I wouldn't drive drunk. So, these things are so silly. But just to show you, this is where you have to understand when you look at things, are you looking at things clearly, or are you looking at things from a very biased lens? So do I have more expression than most people when I do shows? And the answer to that is yes. And actually, it's always benefited me in television work because they like the fact that I wasn't all the time bland, but I did have a lot of expression. And of course, I have a lot of expression because I've been involved in sign language interpreting in my lifetime for almost a decade and a half. And when you do sign language interpreting, your expressions carry the language and the grammar. And just for the fun of it, before I go on to our show, I want to show you how this works. Okay. Some people see the little sign language person in the square, and sometimes they're very bland. Let's say I'm going to say something like, yesterday I was walking down the street and a man came the other direction and he saw me and he said, he looked at me up and down, and I thought, what's he doing? And then he said, you have a pretty dress. And I said, oh, that's all? Thanks. If you do what is not what I call real American Sign Language, you might sign it like this. You see how bland I am? All right. That would be saying that in that way. Now, this is the way I would have signed that, because I also signed Black American Sign Language. All right, I would sign like this. Okay, that's just a quick, it's kind of hard to do when you actually don't have a deaf person in front of you. But I just wanted to show you that. That is more of how I would sign that. You see how much expression is in there? Expression, this is expression. So that is why there's a lot of expression even when I speak, just doing a regular show, because I'm so used to having my face do things. It's just me. It's just me. So no, I am not drunk because my face moves, because I do things like that, and it's just so insulting. But just so I can just push it in their face, I'm going to have some Patron. I just never like to let a good thing go to waste. Now you can see me with a drunk expression. Cheers. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's just, I'm just messing with you. I just, not messing with you guys, but messing with the rest of them. It's like, some of these people are just, it's so ridiculous. And that's why, as I tell you, I'm not butthurt over this, okay? I've seen this before. I'll see it again. And as I get older, I'm sure it's going to get worse. It's just, it's just the way it is. And YouTube is a free place for anybody to say anything they want. There's no consequences unless you do what TurtleBoy did, take it into the real world and harass people and get arrested. So anyway, yes, I'm a rich drunk tonight. I am not drinking. What was it? gas station, fireball. Yeah, fireball. No, yeah, I ran out of Trace and Ross, the honest wasn't in there, and I had to buy Patron, which I actually never had before. Dang, this stuff is really expensive. And it's a much smaller bottle, so I paid for that one. But oh God, that's a lot of noise. I have a glass table, so fireball. When you don't have money, you get cinnamon fireball whiskey. Yeah, that's it. Actually tastes kind of good. All right. So anyway, Lex says, of all the crime channels out there, one of the reasons I got into yours, Pat, is because I like the way you present it. It kept me watching, and I found your content just as good. Thank you. You know, yeah, you know, I'm passionate on certain things. I'm very dry on other things. It all depends whether I'm teaching specifics on crime scene evidence, how we should analyze, or whether it's an issue that really bugs me. And grifters really bug me. You know, I don't have an issue with people doing their own thing, having their own channel. You know, they have a right for that. Free speech, they have a right for that. But when they misrepresent, when they pull people in a cult fashion, where they throw out a whole bunch of stuff that has no legitimacy, and they do hundreds of videos pulling people in so they're all gathering together like a mob, I don't think that's a healthy thing. And I can't stop it, but I can speak out occasionally against it. But most people don't, because when you do, you get called a washed up old lady. A drunk, washed up old lady with fake teeth. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I'm sure Glera Dude is often, he's doing like a 3-hour show trashing me. So anyway, have at it. Have at it. No, I'm not going to go after you for copyright infringement, because I actually know what it is, and you actually didn't do that. You had that was okay what you did. And I really don't care that you say terrible things about me, because you don't have much credibility. So I'm good. So anyway, all right. So let's go for the stuff I was actually here for today. But that just all happened right before the show. So I just wanted to address it and have some fun with it. Let's look at some other issues. Which one is this? Oh, Sherri Papini. I got to go to Sherri Papini. This is kind of fun. Sherri Papini. Oh, Lord God. You know, she's the one who, if you haven't been around Sherri Papini, I did a bunch of shows on her, because I originally said I think it's a hoax, and I got a lot of flack for that, and then it turned out it was a hoax, so I discussed some of those issues. But anyway, let me find the show on this. Okay, Sherri Papini is now leaving. Well, I got to pull things up here. All right, Sherri Papini is now leaving the halfway house where she's finishing her incarceration 8 months early after faking her kidnapping. This is how people don't get what they should get for committing a crime, which I think is inexcusable. All right, she was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison in September of 2022. So you see, she got out way early from federal prison. For what? Why did she get out, we ask? All right, Sherri Papini, the California woman who made headlines for faking her own kidnapping in 2016, has been released from a halfway house. Papini, 41, was released on Friday, 8 months early in her 18-month prison sentence. She had been under community confinement, in a halfway house after being transferred from a satellite facility of the Federal Correctional Institution in Victorville, California. All right, so she's leaving, and now she's on supervised release. All right, so why was she getting out early, we ask? All right, so it revealed, let's see, what I'm looking for that spot here. She was sentenced to 18 months, followed by 36 months of supervised release. She was also ordered to pay $309,000 in restitution. So, then, of course, was in the courtroom. She said she was deeply ashamed. Because her attorney said, you better say you were deeply ashamed. And sorry for all the pain I've caused my family, my friends, and all the good people who needlessly suffered. I'll work the rest of my life to make amends for what I have done. I'm going to guarantee you Nobody's going to get refunded for anything. That's just what her attorneys told her to say. So anyway, she is out. And now you ask, what about hubby? All right, so hubby here, Keith, he filed for divorce last year. And I've been curious about this because people kept saying he was divorced from her. I'm like, no, he's not divorced. He filed for divorce. Now, filing for divorce is different than being divorced. Filing for divorce means you haven't gone through the whole process yet, and there's always a possibility you will back out. Like Sherri, after her stuff, could go to him and say, honey, I really love you. Don't divorce me. And considering that he didn't seem to have a light bulb go on during their marriage, although afterwards he said, boy, was I an idiot. Yeah, you were. Does he actually feel that way? Because a lot of times when these things happen, what I call the husband who's the dolt, who just has this psychopathic wife, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, they don't seem to get the point. And then after they separate or she goes to prison, a lot of times they just take her back. So I'm like, okay, Keith has filed for divorce, but has he actually divorced her? A year has gone by. So I've been wondering, Keith, are you going to be stupid and take her back, or are you going to stand your ground? Now, interesting enough, so now what happened was, because I want him to stand his ground, I really do. Let me find the thing about, this just came out like a day ago. Sherri Papini fails to show up for divorce hearing in Shasta County. Keith Papini was in Shasta County Court Monday for his divorce hearing with Sherri Papini. Sherri was not in attendance, but her attorney spoke over the phone with Keith and his attorney. According to the source inside the courtroom, Keith's attorney claimed that there has been no cooperation from Sherri and that multiple orders related to the case have been ignored. Sherri's attorney requested the hearing be delayed due to difficulties getting hold of Sherri, who was living in a halfway house upon her release. Oh, that must be so difficult. Considering she's in a halfway house and is being monitored, where's she going to go that you can't get hold of her? Fake attorney. Oh, no, he's a real attorney. He's just not telling the truth. All right. Roughly a week and a half ago, she moved out on her own, he said. As Kinney said, that she has yet to meet with Sherri again, but plans to do so on Wednesday. In turn, the judge ordered the hearing to continue 2 weeks from now on the morning of October 23rd. Let's look forward to October 23rd. So obviously, Sherri is dodging this whole thing. And what I really want to see is eventually that Keith actually divorces her and there isn't some kind of, they don't get back together somewhere along the way, because she's a pretty thing and she's good at manipulating. I just hope she doesn't manipulate Keith back into a relationship by saying, hey, look, I lost my mind and I being in prison, I figured it all out. And I can't believe I did this to you and the kids. Please let me back into your life and the kids' life. It's just no way to live. And then Keith goes, I don't want to be a bad guy. I don't want my kids to have no mother. And maybe she does feel bad. So I'll take her back. Let's see what happens. Keith, stay the course. Psychopaths don't change. Psychopaths do not change. I hope he got therapy. Maybe he's going to go to the same therapist I need to go to. Oh, my goodness. Difficulty contacting her. Sure. You think Keith is going to be stupid? Yeah, I want him to stand his ground too. And this is true, Harpa. She picked him because he was simple. And not necessarily simple, but a lot of times a person who is a psychopathic person who's going to manipulate, they're going to find someone who has got a good heart, who is very, just the kind of person that wants to believe everybody is good. They're often very nice people. That's the problem. That they will accept anything. They will believe you. They will always think the best. No psychopath is probably going to waste their time on me. I'm not that nice, but I know some super nice people, and they have been so taken in by some really, really concerning people because they're just too nice, naive, too nice, forgiving, all that kind of stuff. So well, he was whipped. I don't know if he's still whipped, Clarissa. We'll have to see. Yeah. Oh, if she was ugly, she'd be in jail. Well, she feels bad because she got caught. This is true. As far as looks go, looks are an interesting point. There is something that happens when people are attractive that does allow other people to like them, to want to like them. We love beauty in general. We love pretty things. It's hard to look at a pretty person and go, that's a bad person. But it's easy to look at a person who just was unfortunate in life and just got that face that, the only a mother could love face. And then it's hard for people to get past that. And here's a great example of this. Have you ever seen the situation? Remember the woman who got attacked by the chimp? Her friend had a chimpanzee, and she's a very attractive young woman. I can't remember her age, 30s, whatever. Anyway, she went over to help her friend who said her chimp was out of control, and the chimp ate her face. And they show her after her face was ripped off, and then all the reconstructive surgery. And it is hard to look at her when her face is in that condition and think of her as the same person as she was before her face went into that condition. And it shows how we do as human beings have trouble connecting with people who do not appear to us in a pleasant form. And it's really sad, but it's just the truth. It's just the way humans are. I don't know if it's fear or it's they can't. It's because the face is just unattractive. They can't accept it. I don't know what it is, but always it changes people's viewpoints. That is the same thing that happens when people age. So what people think of somebody who, when they're 30, is not the same what they think when they're 80, and it's the same person, but the outside is different. So human beings have difficulty with this, and it's just a fact of nature. So monkeys are not pets. Well, they are till you rip your face off. Yeah, I did kiss a chimp when I was in Egypt, and they told me it was a baby gorilla, but then they handed me this large chimpanzee, and I'm like, holy crap! And I did kiss it, and I luckily did not have my face torn off. But it was Egypt, so I couldn't have sued them. So things wouldn't have gone well. Okay, so that's Sherri Papini. Let's go to the next. Let's see who's next on the list. Oh, Carlee Russell. Remember Carlee Russell? She's the one that another fake hoax thing. She's the one that saw the baby in diapers on the side of the road and went to save the baby, disappeared, claimed she was kidnapped, tried to do a Sherri Papini, but she was really unconvincing. Okay, what's happened with her? All right, what has happened with her? Let me find her. Hold on a second. One second, I'm looking. Seriously? Oh, there she is. There's these little things on your, okay. Carlee Russell, who admitted to faking her own kidnapping in Alabama, was found guilty in the hoax and sentenced to a year in jail. I'm happy with at least she got a year in jail. It's a misdemeanor. It should be a felony. I don't know why it's not a felony to do a hoax that involves police investigation and all this waste of time and money and manpower. Should be a felony, but it's not. It's a misdemeanor, which means that it'll be a year or under. But at least she got the year. But did she? All right, so Carlee Russell was found guilty of 2 misdemeanor charges related to the case. She had pleaded not guilty to 1 count of false reporting. How the heck do you I never understand this. I'm not guilty when it's clear that you're guilty of false reporting. I don't understand that crap. And also she pleaded not guilty to 1 count of false reporting an incident. A judge found her guilty. What a surprise. And Russell was sentenced to spend a year in jail and pay nearly $18,000 in restitution. Her attorney asked for a verdict so they could appeal the case to a circuit court in an effort to avoid jail time. Now you see, this is how it all works out. So what they're aiming for is some community service and hardly anything. Basically, she'll get off on most of this if they get what they want. The attorney said that Russell does not object to paying restitution, saying, I think anything is fair when it comes to restitution with the expenses that were done. So we have to say that is fair. Anytime you assert restitution, it has to be proven. The amount, 17,000 and some hours spent, I would think that's fair. Well, that's the price of half a car. So you go and you lie to the police. You terrify the community. You cause all this trouble, and all you have to pay is half of a cheap car. Okay. I think she can deal with it. Okay, so then it says here, I don't know where it's going to go from here. That's where it's at right now. So they're trying to get her out of jail time. Nobody should get out of jail time for hoaxing the police and using police money and manpower. That should never happen. Once you lie to the police, you should go down like a rock, because you cannot stop people from doing this stuff if all they get is a slap on the wrist. 17,000 for publicity is not a big deal. Sherri Papini, hey, I'm not a betting woman because I don't like to lose. But if I were going to bet on something, I would bet two things. One, Sherri Papini is going to have a book coming out. It'll be a big publisher. It wouldn't be a small publisher. It'll be something like Hyperion, HarperCollins, which is the same thing. HarperCollins, something major. St. Martin's Press. It'll be somebody major. They will take her story, and she will play the victim. She will talk about her difficulties growing up and all the abuse she suffered and how she has PTSD or whatever the heck she's going to come up with, or that she was sexually assaulted. Who knows? She will write a sob story, and it will be published by a major publisher. She will walk away with a lot of money. And then Netflix will show up and say, Sherri, we want to do a series with you. Sherri could come away from all of this rich as heck and very popular, because all she has to do is say she had psychological issues, PTSD, for something. She'll make up something that happened in her past. And then people who have suffered some of these things immediately gravitate. And they're like, oh my God, we should forgive her. She's been through so much. No wonder she did these things. She was abused by men in her life, blah, blah, blah. And that works. She'll walk away with money. This woman, I don't think she's going to get as much. Her story was kind of crappy, but I think she's likely to get off with some community service and pay some money. And maybe she won't get as much as Sherri Papini did out of it. But it's disgusting to me, and I think they should be nailed with a felony, not a misdemeanor. I go with 3 years in prison. That's what I would like to see, and none of this other nonsense. Wait a minute, is Keith still around? Oh, Keith's still hanging around for the gravy train. That's an interesting concept, Clarissa. I like this one. She's beating herself up, gave her PTSD. Well, either she did it herself or she asked that boyfriend to just beat her up a little bit, and he just went right ahead with it, I guess. So yeah, she's feeling bad. Oh my goodness. How can you profit from your crimes? The Son of Sam laws that you're not supposed to be able to profit, but most of those have been attributed. Those are mostly for serial killers and so forth. Now, serial killers have always profited from their crimes, because even if somebody else, an FBI profiler, writes a whole book about them, they get girlfriends, they get married in prison, they get to have sex in prison, they get all kinds of benefits and the thrills, the fun part of it, being able to know people are talking about you and writing about you. There's a lot of profit in that. And then now I forgot what's her name? The Russian fakie. I'm blanking on her name now. What's her name? Somebody give me her name. The one in New York. She's now giving dinner parties and selling art and crap. Not Anastasia. No, the other one, the Netflix one. I'm blanking on her name. Somebody give me her name. No, the fake Russian heiress. The one she already got the Netflix series, and now she's popular. Yeah, you forget her name too. We should all forget her name in unison, so she's never heard of again. Yeah, that's it. Anna Delvey. All right. Thanks, Sarah. We should all forget her name, but she's She is now giving parties. She's got all the in people coming to her home. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And people are praising her for coming back from defeat. Ugh. She should have been deported from the country, but she's still here. So it's disgusting. But that's why people keep doing this crap. Who is this? Oh, I just wanted to point out, people have asked about Rachel Morin. She's the woman that was brutally murdered in Maryland, near about 30 minutes north of me. I did this profile for the family. People are asking what's going on. Recently, the police have said they have some tip that's bringing them to Washington, D.C., which would make kind of sense. But they're not saying where the tip came from. They're saying, well, no, they're saying it's not a tip from the public, but they're saying it's from the crime scene, but I don't even understand what they would get from the crime scene that would link to Washington, D.C. So sometimes when the police say stuff, you don't know whether they're saying stuff to say stuff or whether they actually have something. And so when people say, what do you think this means? I haven't got a clue. I want to talk a little bit about Marian Sylla. This is such a weird crime. She was a teacher. She's 60 years old, as you can see. Attractive woman, because, I'm 68 and I'm perfectly happy with women being in their 60s being attractive. However, women in their 60s being chosen by a serial killer is extremely unrare. And I'm like, doesn't even hardly ever happen. So what the heck? Let me find a story on that. The guy is, hold on a second. Where'd it go? No, they did not do that to, for God's sakes. Okay, I just been screwed. You ask, how did I just get screwed? Sometimes when you hit a spot on you have a page with everything open, you hit a certain spot, everything vanishes. They wipe out your entire page, which is very frustrating. So I'm going to go back into my history because the only way I can find anything ever again, because they just wiped me out. Darn, that's annoying as heck. Hold on a second. I'm really in trouble here. They just wiped out my whole page. Thanks, guys. Hold on. I may just have to start Googling. So I'm going to put her name in. So what happened was this guy just got hold on a second. Let me see if I can at least pull him up. Ugh. I'm so screwed. Hold on a second, guys. I can't believe this happened. There's something wrong with this program because all I did was hit one. I had like 15 boxes open for the show. All of them disappeared. So isn't that lovely? So I'm going to have to try to find get these things back again, so I can do the show. It's really annoying. And there's really it's in my history, but other than that, they just vanish. Okay, so what the heck? Unbelievable. I wanted to talk about this because I can't believe how the heck do they not have the recent one I just had here? One more second. I'm very frustrated. I'm going to have to go try this. All right. Let's see if I can do it through. They just brought this guy in, the one who killed this woman, and I wanted to talk about. Unbelievable. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. So annoyed. Let's see. What he did to her was so unusual. What the heck? This is bizarre. Okay, I can't even find it. It just vanished. This guy was brought in, and this is a guy. her name was Marian Sylla, and she was a French teacher. She was from Africa. She taught second grade immersion type thing. She was well loved in the community. She lived in Greenbelt, Maryland. She went for a walk in a very populated area, not even through trees, not all the things I tell people not to do. Don't go down paths and don't those kind of things. Don't do that alone. She wasn't alone. She was on a major street and she vanished. And people say, what happened to her? Well, that was a good question. So as a profiler, the chances of her being kidnapped by a complete stranger was very low. And yet she got kidnapped by supposedly a complete stranger. This guy's a fairly young man. He kidnapped her off the street. He took her someplace. He cut her head off. He cut her arms off. He cut her legs off. And he tried to get rid of the body parts in an area that was at least 30 miles away. But he was stupid. So people saw him like doing something. So so they were able to figure out who he was. And then he's going to court now. They have no motive. And as a profiler, it is so bizarre because generally speaking, again, as attractive as she is as a 6-year-old, it's odd. Young white man, older black woman. Some people would say, well, is this some kind of a hate crime? It seems a little odd. It still doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem to make any sense as a hate crime. He was in the area, she was in the area, and he saw her and he just grabbed her for no reason. Was this truly a serial killer crime, a sexual homicide? They haven't said whether she was raped or not. Did he see her and think she looked lovely from a distance, not realize she was 60 and she just looked that good? But she was, I don't know. She might have looked really nice. Because serial killers do tend to like to go for the younger, prettier, smaller, but it's such a strange crime that I honestly do not have an answer. And so sometimes when you're profiling, you're doing crime scene analysis, there are things called anomalies, things that you've not seen before. And you go, what was the motive? And I do not know. And so rather than come out here and say, oh, I'm pretty sure it's this and I'm pretty sure it's that, I honestly do not know. So it is very bizarre, very, very unusual. And I just thought that was interesting. Well, a sick, demented freak. Well, you can go with that. She was attractive and petite, Harpa, but it is still rare, extremely rare, that as he's driving along, he looks over. Nobody has ever mistaken me, even when I was thin, for being younger than I am. Okay. And she was on a main thoroughfare. So this is so weird because it would be one thing if she, like this dude was in, he's like hanging out, like the Rachel Morin case. I believe the guy was hanging, he knew that trail that she was on. Now she was quite attractive. And she was like walking along, jogging along, little shorts, and she had nice boobs and all that stuff. So yeah, she was a prize in serial killer language. But also, sometimes what will happen is, let's say you're hanging out, you're coming along on a path and it's dark out, getting dark, and the pretty girl got away from you, the young girl got away from you, and then here comes along a woman who's a little bit older, you're like, whatever, kind of like a drunk at the end of the night goes, okay, I can go with that woman. She doesn't have any teeth, but hey, I'm in here for 3 hours and all the youngins have run away, I'll take the woman with no teeth now because I'm pretty drunk. You might do that. But this guy was in a this was not even night. This was daytime on a regular street. It's so, I'm still wondering what the heck. I haven't got an answer for it because it is that strange to me that I'm like, really an anomaly. And sometimes you have to admit anomalies, and whether this guy will ever say why he did this, and can we ever believe him because he's a psychopath? So do we believe him? Was it a hate crime? Was it he just had a thing for West African women? Was it he had a mommy complex? Was it because he didn't know her and didn't like her? Was he hired? Was a hired hit by? No. So some questions on the son. Was it a hired hit? I don't know, because it's just that weird. So, and no, opportunity is one thing, but even serial killers and rapists have choices. They don't have to always commit the crime that exact moment. A lot of times they will, they'll troll for a really long time looking for what they want. Just as I say, a guy goes back to a bar. He may go to the bar a number of times waiting to get what he wants. Serial killers have that preference too. But again, I don't know that that's true. It's so weird. She was there and he's looking for a victim. I don't know that that's true. See, we can go to the simplest explanation, but I just don't know that that's true. I was really shocked, and I'm rarely shocked, because I couldn't understand the location she was taken from. I'm like, this does not look like your normal serial killer crime. She wasn't on an isolated path. She's not the right age. She's not the right, she's just not the right victim for this location. And I'm going to say I still don't know. And sometimes if you're going to analyze crimes, it's better. If a police officer came to me and said, why do you think the guy did this? I would tell him, I have no clue. It's okay to say you don't have a clue when it's an anomaly. And you have to, but then again, I say there's always possibilities you don't know about. She had troubles with her son. Could the son have hired somebody? I'm not saying he did. May have had nothing to do with this, but could that be true? They have to look into that. Or does this guy have some kind of weird hatred of West African women? Or does he have a thing for West African women? Or I say there's all kinds of possibilities, but we can't jump to a conclusion on it and just say, well, she was just available. No, that is not true. It's been a long time since I've seen a woman kidnapped from a main thoroughway in the daylight of her age. Just bizarre. Totally 100% bizarre. Hired hitmen don't usually dismember. True. I will agree with you. And that, normally speaking, they just shoot you in the head or stab you and make it look like a robbery or something. Again, that's pretty weird. And why is he doing that even? Again, why? Why didn't he just take her body and just go dump it someplace? Again, very odd. He dumped her body 30 miles away. I don't know if he knew the area real well down there, but he screwed that whole thing up. He's not very bright. So I just don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to find out the truth of this. Speaking of possible serial killers. Now, this is interesting. I talked about this one before. Now, of course, I've lost my whole, every one of my, her name is here, at least that's it. Melissa Mooney, 31-year-old model, was found dead in her LA apartment, was pregnant at the time of her death, which has been described as a result of homicidal violence. All right. This is one woman. She was described as an aspiring model. She worked in real estate. Very attractive woman, lived in a luxury apartment, aspiring model. Just want to point out, cannot find out, I do not see her on any modeling sites. And then there's this woman. Her name is Nicole Coates. And I just think she's beautiful. Beautiful. She was also found in that area in a luxury apartment. She supposedly worked for some company, some like I don't know, some products company, like makeup company, and she worked from home, and she lives in a luxury apartment. Again, I'm having trouble with that. Here she is again. She's just lovely. She should be, in my opinion, a famous model. She's gorgeous, but she's also in her 30s, and I don't find her on any major modeling. And I understand how modeling works. Generally speaking, you need to be like in your teens. If you're in modeling when you're in your 30s and 40s, usually it means that you were already there in your teens and became famous. You usually don't walk into it at 30s and 40s, no matter how gorgeous you are. Now, of course, these days they try to promote regular people, so you might get to be, I might get in as, hey, old people are cool too. And if you're fat, you can get in as being a fat person. But but she's beautiful. Both these women are very attractive. But I have to say, I just think she's stunning. I think she should be top model, but now they're both dead. So there's a lot of people think there's a serial killer running around because these happened just a very short period of time apart in LA in luxury apartments. And they're both supposedly, quote, aspiring models. Now, I find two things very interesting about these cases, and this is what I want to point out about don't jump to conclusions. Again, is this a serial killer crime? Now, people would say, well, both models or aspiring models, both in luxury apartments, very close by, very close in time, both African American. Could it be a serial killer? Sure, but it doesn't mean it is. Now, what's interesting is what they found out recently. There's been very little publicity about these two cases, which is making some people really pissed off because a lot of time African American women who are murdered don't get the press that white women do. That's true. But they found out she is supposedly pregnant at the time of her death. Now, does the pregnancy have anything to do with her death? I do not know. Now, we often find out that when women get pregnant, the person who kills them is the guy who got her pregnant because he doesn't want to deal with the pregnancy. Her family says she was excited. She always wanted to be a mother. Doesn't do much for your burgeoning career in modeling, but you have a child, maybe you'll change up your mind about life and go a different direction. Supposedly she was happy she was pregnant. But who was the guy? Nobody said who the guy was. So the guy she got pregnant by, does he know? Did he know? Did he come over and say, I don't like it? Because if he didn't choose this and doesn't want this and she doesn't want an abortion, this is when men have sometimes killed the pregnant woman because it eliminates having to deal with this for the rest of their lives. They don't have to deal with the pregnancy. They don't have to deal with child support. They don't deal with anything. Once the baby's born, they're stuck for the rest of their life, financially, emotionally. And some guys say, "Hey, I'm not up for that." And with the concept that it's my body, my choice, a woman can tell a guy who wants the baby, tough luck, and she can roll into an abortion clinic, get rid of the baby, and the guy has no choice. He loses his child. On the other hand, a woman can say, the guy says, hey, get an abortion. And she goes, heck no, it's my body, my choice. But he's on the hook for the next 50 years. So most people who are healthy human beings will not be killing people over this. They will accept that if you're stupid enough not to use a condom, dude, yay, what can I say? If you weren't in a relationship that you thought was worthwhile enough to take that, if you end up getting a woman pregnant, if you're just going to play around and get people pregnant, that is your problem. You're stupid, and you should step up to the plate. But some don't. They just kill the woman, get rid of the baby, get rid of the woman. They're done. So, is this a serial killer? Could be. They may not know she's pregnant. They don't care if she's pregnant. Serial killers could care less if you're pregnant. So, if the serial killer attacked her, so what if she's 2, 3, 4 months pregnant? Baby dies with her. Or could it have been if she was involved in things where she was involved in, and I'm not saying this is true, but if she were involved in any kind of dating situation for pay, you don't know who you're getting. And some of those guys are freaks, and some of those guys are serial killers, and they could be a serial killer, but we don't know. Or she could be involved in nothing negative at all. She could have the cleanest life ever. She got pregnant by some guy and he didn't like it. But we don't know anything about, except that she was murdered. That we know. Now, interesting enough, this beautiful woman, Nikki, she was 32. She's found dead in her apartment. Now, what happened here is that the police have not ruled it. They have not ruled it a murder. They have not ruled it a suspicious death. So what happened was her father came over. I believe it was her father, because he hadn't gotten a response, went in with an extra key and found her in bed, her arm extended. And just some underwear on, nothing more than that. And said he couldn't recognize her. And so a lot of people took that as, and they said blood in the bed, and they couldn't recognize her because she was a lot of people took that as she was beaten, murdered, and so on and so forth. But she had been there for days. So this just may be the fact that she had been dead for 4 to 5 days. And it's not a pretty sight when somebody's been dead that long and the body's below. There's stuff that comes out of bodies. It looks like blood, but it's not. And things that start looking like bruising are not bruising, it's just decomposition. It's a very horrifying thing. The police have not said it's a murder. It may be a natural death. It could be an overdose. It could be something else. They don't know yet. And so if this is true, that it wasn't a murder, well, now you go back to a Melissa, and we're kind of knocking out, well, not saying a serial killer is impossible, but it's less probable than it was if you had two women close together, both murdered in a similar way, both raped and murdered. Neither one of these women I've heard have been raped. So have we got two separate situations? One a murder, one maybe some other kind of death, one maybe somebody she knew, like a boyfriend, the other one, nobody at all. So this is where people start jumping in and start saying serial killer, and these women were murdered and nobody cares about them and this kind of stuff. And it may just be that this is all it is. We don't know at this point. We don't know. So don't jump to conclusions again. That's important. Decomp. It's we don't have a cause of death at this point. So we don't know. There's been no proof of sexual assault. So this, as I say, it's just interesting because when you come across these cases and you hear certain things, you just don't know where the truth lies. You don't. Now let's see. I'm going to see if I can try to dredge up the next thing that's gone missing. Oh Lord, I'm so frustrated. I can't believe all these things are missing on me. I'm going to. Oh, okay. Here's one I wanted to do. This is a fascinating case of. This is a woman who was charged. She had a baby, and she said it was stillborn, and she was charged with murder. This is another woman that said she had a stillborn child and was charged with murder, and it was based on this concept. Very interesting concept of, let's see, is this my picture? Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. I don't have a picture of that one. Okay, it's called this. A lab test that experts liken to a witch trial is helping send women to prison for murder. What lab test are we talking about? It's called a lung float test. This helps determine if a baby was born alive or dead. But many medical examiners say it's too unreliable. So they take the lungs out of the dead baby, essentially, and they float it. And kind of like the Salem witch trials, if it floats, how does that work? If you sink, you're innocent, but if you float, if you sink, you're innocent. If you float, you're guilty. But either way, you're dead, that kind of thing. So the lung float test, which purports to show if a baby breathed by seeing their lungs float, is inaccurate. All right. But some medical examiners still use it to help determine if a baby was born alive or dead. There's a growing consensus that a lung float test should not be allowed in criminal cases. It has contributed to murder charges against women. Now, we have had in the recent past, defense attorneys have worked very hard to get rid of blood spatter pattern, to get rid of, what else have they tried to get rid of? Bite marks, blood stain patterns, 911 calls, and hair comparisons. In other words, everything you could possibly do except solid DNA, defense attorneys have tried to say is not legitimate evidence, that it's so prone to experts' claims and personal opinions and subjectivity that they shouldn't be allowed at all. Defense attorneys are working overtime to eliminate basically any type of evidence except for something so major they can't get out of it. They'll still try, but so they're saying that this is what leads to wrongful convictions. They say these are all pseudosciences. Now, but listen to the cases that they're talking about, which they're going to give as an example, and I think they're kind of fascinating. So the first woman, this is this woman here. Her name is Moira Akers. All right. So there's reasons besides the fact that the lungs didn't float that they thought she killed the baby. But they're trying to make it sound like no such thing occurred. Now, listen to this. She was 37 years old. Let's see. She was a Maryland woman. Her baby died. She didn't intend to get pregnant. She and her husband, Ian, already had 2 young children, and the couple worried they wouldn't be able to handle another child. Okay. They struggled financially. She was a stay-at-home mom. Okay, usually if you're a stay-at-home mom, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 kids and I had 3 kids. Actually, I had 1, then 2, then 3. But as a stay-at-home mom, and one of the advantages of being a stay-at-home mom is once you're already a stay-at-home mom, the 3rd kid isn't that much of a financial drain. A little bit more food. They can share a room, share the toys, share the clothes. How much of an extra drain is it? But they're saying it's a huge drain. He worked only a few days a week as a first mate on a dinner cruise. Well, maybe, dude, that's your problem. All right. Her previous pregnancies, both ending in cesarean sections, were difficult, and challenges with her youngest child demanded much of her attention. Due to Akers' age, 37, and her weight, her pregnancy was considered high risk. The couple decided to terminate, but they didn't tell her family, who are Catholic and she worried might not have approved. When Akers was a little girl, her mother said she dreamed of being a mother, and as an adult, she doted on children. After an appointment with a gynecologist around 15 weeks into her pregnancy, court records show that Akers thought it was too late for her to have an abortion in Maryland. She decided she would carry the baby to term without letting anyone know she was pregnant and give it up at a firehouse. Sorry. I'm like, when did this story appear? I'm going to say this is after she talked to the attorneys. All right. This is why you can't believe a lot of stuff, because she's claiming that later. Did she tell anybody, her husband or her friends, anybody, I'm pregnant, but I'm going to give the baby away and on the sly? Anybody? Or is she just, the attorney said, we got to come up with a story. Your baby ended up dead. You got to come up with a story why you went through with the pregnancy and the baby ended up dead. So this is her story. I wanted the baby to have a good life, she later told the police. I just knew we weren't going to be able to provide that. What? Seriously, I'm sorry, but you already have 2 children. Most people think if they've already had 2 children and there's a husband and a wife and 2 kids, that they're going to be able to give that 3rd child a reasonable life. I have very few people say they couldn't handle the 3rd child. They're taking away the sibling of 2 other kids. They're putting the child into a system. They don't know where that kid's going to end up. Get out of here. That's not ringing true to me. She didn't gain much weight, and she told her husband early on in the pregnancy that she had terminated it. Okay, so wait a minute. She's purposely trying not to look fat, so she looks pregnant. She's telling her husband she got the abortion. Wait a minute. If her husband was in on this and was okay about everything, why wouldn't he know if she got an abortion or not? Why they could go out of state and get an abortion? They could do something. She claims her husband, she told her husband, she lied to her husband that she wasn't pregnant anymore. She also didn't divulge the fact that she was pregnant to other family members who were going through their own hardships. Her sister was being treated for cancer and feared she would never be able to have children of her own. Wait a minute. Your sister can't have children and she wants to have one? Yeah, okay. Her brother was recovering from an accident that left him temporarily using a wheelchair. Well, that's a good reason to lie to your husband about having an abortion. And the family had recently buried her grandmother and aunt. And what's your point? They were old. Akers declined to comment to her attorney, but the description of the case is based on police and court records, including a trial transcript as well as interviews with her family and lawyer. So on November 1st, 2018, the family's 3-bedroom duplex in the suburban Baltimore, Akers was having contractions when she felt a strong urge to use the bathroom. She delivered her son into the toilet. Oh, I guess she didn't need a C-section this time around. She said he was not breathing. She grabbed her older son's Star Wars towel to wrap the baby in, then carried him into the bedroom to get scissors and cut the umbilical cord. I didn't hear anything, she later told the detective. The baby, she said, didn't move. She didn't know what to do next. She scanned the room and spotted a large Ziploc bag meant to store her daughter's clothes. How convenient. She placed her baby in the blue bag and put the bag in the closet. Akers was bleeding heavily from the delivery. Blood soaked the carpet and smeared the bathroom floor. It stained the bathtub, closet door, and hallway. Her husband came up the stairs, alarmed by all the blood, don't you think? He called the paramedics. I've always found this interesting when people say, oh, she was pregnant through the entire, all this 9 months, basically. and he's sleeping with his wife. I mean, did she not sleep in the bed with him anymore? Because usually when you sleep next to your wife and she's pregnant, her stomach goes like this. Boom, 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 boom. It's kind of obvious. If you touch her stomach, it's like a rock. All right. Is he adult? Maybe. All right. So, alarmed by all the blood, he called the paramedics. When they arrived, they asked Akers questions as she sat on the couch with her husband and 2 children. She denied being pregnant. It wasn't until later, after Akers arrived at the hospital, that she told the nurse that she had delivered a stillborn child at home. The doctors who came in next saw protruding umbilical cords still attached and asked if the baby was alive. Akers said she had delivered a stillborn baby and told them about the bag in the closet. Police launched an investigation. Akers described being in denial about the pregnancy. She wasn't in denial. She knew damn well she was pregnant. She just lied to everyone. And about the baby's death. They did an autopsy. They said the baby was the baby, they wrote, appeared to be well developed and well nourished and had been delivered about 41 to 42 weeks of pregnancy. He had blue eyes and straight brown hair. They didn't find any evidence of foul play, but the fact that she stuck the baby in a bag and put him in a closet were concerning. Then they did the lung float test. A flotation test and a microscopic examination of the lungs was consistent with a live birth. The baby, the medical examiners concluded, died as asphyxia and exposure from being left in the closet. They charged her with child abuse and murder. So now that they're trying to basically, the defense attorneys are on the push to get rid of this lung float test. But, and I'm not saying I know how accurate the lung float test is, but when you add that to all the other information, it looks to me like a homicide. But you know, this is again, women tend to get away with a lot of these things because people feel sorry for them and they think that, you know, they're just under stress and they just can't deal with things. And therefore, not just the fact that they make choices and their choices are bad ones sometimes. There's another woman, and I'll go to your comments. So let me tell you about the other one. This woman is, let's see, her name is Bridget Lee. Bridget Lee, let me find her. All right. In 2006, Bridget Lee had hid her pregnancy after having an affair. You always see that these aren't situations where somebody's had a baby and is like on a room full of people and things go wrong. We're always seeing some secretive aspect. Bridget Lee had hid her pregnancy after having an affair. She didn't want anyone in the small Alabama community where she played piano in a church to know. When she went into labor at home, she said her son was stillborn. She placed his body in a plastic container, put it in her SUV where it sat for days. The medical examiner used a lung float test and concluded that he had been born alive. She was charged with murder. And she was charged with murder. Let's see what happened after this. She spent 9 months in jail before they dropped the charges against her because then they got pressured into dropping the charges. She had later told reporters that she knows it's hard for people to understand how she could put her baby's body in a container and leave it in a car. But she said the best way to describe it was like having an out-of-body experience. Yet, she hid her pregnancy for the entire 9 months. She didn't want the baby. She didn't want to be found out she had a baby. And lo and behold, the baby's born. It ends up dead. She puts it in a thing and tries to get rid of it. So you got to look at these things and say, maybe there's reasons, not just the lung floating test, but it's all these other circumstantial things that lead one to believe that the mother killed the baby because she didn't want it. And that's homicide. No matter how you look at it, that's homicide. So I think that's really interesting. Let's see. Let's see. I know someone who intentionally kept a secret with she was pregnant at 50 of fear of losing the child. Well, they may keep it secret from people in the neighborhood, because you don't want, you hate the people coming up and saying, oh, I hope it works out for you. Boy, you're so old. I hope you have that baby okay. I can see where you keep that, not from your husband, because he's the father of the child. When you're keeping a secret of pregnancy from your husband, again, I've never understood how people can get to be 9 months pregnant and claim they didn't know they're pregnant, and the boyfriend or husband didn't know they're pregnant either. You look pregnant. I don't even care if you're thin. You still look pregnant. The baby moves around. Your stomach is rock hard. It's just, you look pregnant. There's always people come up and say, I didn't look pregnant at all. Nobody could tell. But if you're lying in bed with somebody, I have a hard time believing they don't know somewhere along the way that you're pregnant. And if you're not telling them, there's something really wrong with this picture. I understand you don't tell the community. That's none of their damn business. But yeah, even if you're overweight, I question that. And again, it's the behaviors of the person involved, which is why there are suspicions that come up by the police as to why they suspect that this is a homicide. So you can make up all excuses in the world, but there's some things, and this, again, we do this with women, but we don't do it with men. And I always point this out because I always find that interesting. Okay. I want to talk about, I want to talk about this particular thing. I'll see if I can find it. Of course, I say I've lost everything because I hit this thing and it went away, but I'm going to try to find it because I think this is, let's see, hold on a second. Yeah. Okay. I gotta go to, how do I find this? It's hard to find when you've, okay, let's see. Bowie. I gotta go through news again. But I want this one story, which is just Bowie crash Juvenile. Let's see if that'll come up. Okay. Okay, here we go. I found this one. All right. So this one is about last week. I think I talked about there were 4 teens that were in a car and crashed into a tree right near my house, and all of them died. They crashed into the tree and it went on fire, and people came out to try to save them, and they saw them like at the windows, all teens. And the 2 in the back was a 15-year-old girl and her cousin. And the mother says she would never have gotten in that car if she had known that the driver had carjacked that car. So the driver earlier in the day or early at morning hours had carjacked that vehicle. That's why the police had seen this vehicle and they were trying to pull it over because they thought something was wrong with the tags. And the person sped off, and within 5 minutes they crashed into a tree. The police actually weren't chasing them. It's just the driver just crashed into the tree because he was panicked, obviously. He had carjacked the car, and the other guy in the front seat. Usually when you have a carjacking, it's usually at least two to 3 people. I'm going to say the guy on the other side, the other teen, was involved in the carjacking. The mother of the girl in the back and the cousin say she would never have gotten in that car she'd known. First of all, I always ask, your daughter's 15 years old. You didn't even know who she got in the car with. Why is she running around people she doesn't know? But here's what it turns out to be. The driver of the stolen vehicle that crashed in Bowie, Maryland, last month, killing 4 teenagers, was 14 years old. 14. So anyway, 14 years old. His name was Marquet Swan. All right. And this is what I found fascinating when I went to the bottom of this article. Wait a minute. What happened to the rest of the article? Oh my God. Hold on a second. I lost my stuff. So annoying. Apparently, okay, this is not the same story, but this is the same. Okay, I found something, enough of it. All right. The Maryland State's Attorney, Aisha Braveboy, reacted Monday by calling out the state's Department of Juvenile Services for failing to detain dangerous teens. She said, I believe they should never release a child who's been charged with a felony, a violent felony, prior to a court or judge hearing or evaluating if this individual should be released. The 14-year-old who carjacked that car and got those 4 kids killed, including himself, the other 3 killed, including him, had been charged in a violent felony. a crime, a violent felony. I don't know what it was, but they didn't retain him. They let him back out into the community again to commit another crime. This is insane. And then it says the other thing they said, which which annoyed me, was they said that the system had failed this 14-year-old thief, this 14-year-old repeat felon. They'd failed him. And he was basically homeless at that point. No, they failed the community. Anytime you have a violent felon and the prosecutors in the area do not keep him out of the community, and they let him back in to commit another crime, they failed the community. They failed those two kids in the back seat, stupid though they may be in getting in there, and the parents not paying any mind to it. Those two kids got killed because they let a felon back into the community. They failed the community. Not him. He's already a criminal. They should have put him where he should have been. But they failed the community. But they keep talking about bad choices, bad choices. No. These are called crimes. They're saying the 14-year-old made bad choices. No, he committed crimes. And he committed crimes against the community, and violent ones that were felonies. I mean, these weren't minor things. I don't even know what the felony was because they won't tell us. But we know what the second felony was, at least the felony after he got released. That was called carjacking, and he had a weapon. He put a gun to somebody's head and stole the car. And then he got 3 other kids killed. That's nonsense. This is just absolute nonsense. And it just drives me crazy. Mistakes. Yeah. We're finding that this is happening in communities. I don't live in a bad community, quote, bad community. What I mean by that is this is actually a very upscale community, generally speaking. And yet we're having all these new carjackings in this community, stuff that's never happened here before. And you know what they're saying it is? Okay, let me see if I can find the article that disappeared on me. All right, hold on a second. Okay, I got to figure out what I'm going to put in Google to find it. Shooting. Hold on a second. I hope I can find it. I have them all set up. They're just so annoying. Okay. This is another shoot. This is a shooting in the area. Well, that's not the one. It was a kid. Wait a minute. It was a kid who was killed. Hold on a second. Teen. Let me put in teen. My goodness. Let me put in teenager. Teen. There was a teen shot in Maryland. Oh, here we go. All right, I found it. Just take us a little longer when you lose them. Teen found fatally shot. This is in Maryland, about 20 minutes down the road from me. A 16-year-old Fort Washington boy, very close to me, has been fatally shot. A reward up to $25,000 has been offered for information leading to an arrest. All right. A number of shots were fired in a ground floor laundry room. Bullet holes could be seen in a door and a wall. One flew into a resident's home. One came through my bedroom wall, hit my TV. Detectives are working to determine a motive and identify a suspect. Shortly after Fletcher had been shot to death, students at Flowers High School informed Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks and State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. Remember Braveboy? She just talked about this young man who was not kept in custody after a violent felony. All right, she speaks up again. She says what they believe is fueling the violence. The pandemic has left them with PTSD, and their parents are not listening to them. So the state's attorney said this was powerful information. This was one of the most consequential conversations any of us have had with young people who were so courageous today to share what they were feeling. Kids were kept in prison in their homes, and they're allowed to spend all their time on social media. And there's a whole social media's whole bunch of things about guns and drugs and sex and all that kind of stuff. And you wondered about them. Yeah, okay. The isolation they described, the anxiety, the depression, a lot of this is caused by parents. because parents, there's things you can do and there's things you don't do. And some of that lies on you. Even when there's problems, I mean, I'm not talking about all out war, stuff like that. But when you're in a situation, you have to make choices for the kids in your life to make their lives good. There's a lot of things you could have done, even during COVID, to make your children's lives happy. I homeschooled all 3 of my kids. They were in prison for how many years? 12 years each. They were in prison in my house for 12 years each because I homeschooled. But I still found ways. And when I homeschooled my granddaughter during COVID, I still found ways. And my daughter's mother and father still found ways to make her life happy. There's all kinds of things. Pets. You can have pets. You can do art. You can take field trips. You can go hiking. There's things you can do unless you don't do them. All right. So anyway, so basically the pandemic made them feel they're growing up too quickly because of the incessant connection to social media. Cut the social media. One of the things they said is you can develop kind of your own persona on social media. And that's why guns become so important for these young people who want to act like tough guys or girls. My kids have never thought when they were kids of having guns. If your kids are thinking about guns, you're letting your kids get away from you. And the amount of children who are accessing guns these days is ridiculous. And I'm sorry, it's your fault, parents. It is 100% your fault. And so having these guns and being on social media with those weapons. Seriously? Your kids on social media showing their guns? Your kids in gangs? Your kids is saying this is cool? You failed as a parent. I'm sorry, parents, it is your kid. Stop blaming everybody else in the world. Stop it. Do something with your kid. Make sure your child doesn't see crap. Stop showing R-rated movies in your living room. Stop having creepy boyfriends rolling in. Stop doing drugs. Stop doing all this kind of crap. Maybe you're not providing a good environment for your kids if they're getting into the concept of running around with guns. Sorry. Just drives me crazy. And so that's why the boy got shot by another boy, because that boy had PTSD from being home from COVID. Now, COVID, yes. I mean, I'm not saying it was a pleasant time. I'm not saying people didn't struggle with it. But why does your kid have a gun? Why? Spare me. Kids with guns like blaming violence on TV. Well, it is. But if you let your kids watch things that are constantly violent, that does go into their head. I always talk about the Super Bowl. You know how much money you pay to have an advertisement on the Super Bowl? Huge money. You know why? Because it works. If advertising didn't work to sell somebody that tennis shoe, they wouldn't do the advertising. If you let your children do tons of violent video games, if you let them watch R-rated movies with nothing but violence in them, if you let them watch rap things, which all talk about women as bees, showing up the guns, shooting, showing money and drugs, and saying that's cool, you are basically advertising all this stuff to your child. That's your fault. You are the parent. You can take that thing, get rid of it. You don't have to let your child have a smartphone. You don't have to let your child just sit on an iPad. You don't. When I was raising my kids, they got that stuff. There was one computer eventually. It was in the living room, so I could see what you're looking at. They only got to watch TV when I gave them permission, and it was very, very small amount of time, and it had to be something worthwhile. You don't have to let your kids do what every other kid does in town. You don't. And if you do, you're going to deal with the results of that. So if you let your children watch sexualized stuff when they're 6, 7, 8 years old, and you wonder why the hell at 11 they're having sex, that's your fault. Stop running away from your parental responsibilities. That's your fault. There's no excuse for that. There isn't. And if you think that the school your kid is in is that bad, well, again, if you're poor as crap, you sometimes don't have a lot of choice. Your kid has to go to the school they got to go to. There's nothing much you can do about it. If you have any choice, you can homeschool, you can private school, you can do something. But even if your kid goes to public school, your kid doesn't have to go after public school home with any of those kids. I know kids who have been in, that person just accused me of not respecting people of certain religions. I have known children from Jehovah's Witnesses homes, and they go to public school. and they come home and they do not participate in the things that are out there in the world, because the parents say, go to school, learn your stuff, and come home. Then you participate in with our family, our church community. Well, they don't call it church community, but with the witnesses, we participate in these things. And we don't do this, and that. Now, I don't care whether you like the witnesses or not. The point is, the kids can come home from school and not hang out with all the other crappy kids. So when that young woman from my area when her cousin got in a car with a 14-year-old carjacking criminal, somebody wasn't paying attention. Oh, my daughter wouldn't have gotten in there. She'd known better. No, she got in there because she didn't know better, because you never taught her better, because you didn't keep her home. There's things you can do. It's tough, but that's your job. Okay, that's my soapbox for tonight. Oh, I just see all these children getting harmed like this. It drives me insane. I just threw a West Side Gang sign. I did not know that. But I'm just so sad when I see this kind of stuff, and it's just frustrating to me. It really is, because we do make choices in life. And when we have children, we have to make those choices. And sometimes they're hard. Sometimes it simply means we don't spend money where we'd like to spend money. We spend it in a different way. That's why I chose to homeschool. I didn't like the public schools my kids would go to, so I decided to homeschool because I couldn't afford private. So I homeschooled. And then we shopped at thrift stores. And that's what we did. And never regretted it for a minute. Now, I'm saying not everybody can do that, but there are choices we can still make. There are many people who... It's fascinating sometimes. One of the most fascinating things I saw recently in Prince George's County, where I live, is Amazon or something gave all these awards out to African American. Well, we're supposed to be African American students, but we're mostly African American in this area, to the students in this area. And there were 14 awards given. One of those kids was an American-born African American girl who was a church girl, by the way, and just did some amazing, brilliant things. She got an award. Do you know who the other 13 awards went to? All of them Nigerian. Parents were immigrants. All of their kids, their Nigerian kids, got awards. Live in the same area. What the heck's going on here? I'll tell you what. Nigerians respect education, and they're tough people. They're tough people. You go to school, you learn, you get your butt home. And it works. I have to be impressed by that. So that shouldn't happen. I mean, the Nigerian immigrant population to Prince George's County is small in comparison to those who were born here. Why are they doing so well? Because they believe in education and they're tough parenting. They're tough parents. So parenting has a place, and we need to pay attention to that. And speaking of this piece of crap, this is a guy, Michael Cherry. I'm going to try to find that one. Because again, I'm talking about parenting here. Let's see, Michael Cherry. Hold on, I got to pull him up. Michael Cherry, arrested. I guess I'm going to do it that way. Let's see if he pulls up. All right. What did he do? All right. What did he do, Michael Cherry, that piece of garbage? 25-year-old from Topeka, Kansas, was identified as a suspect and apprehended and connected to sexual assault and murder of a 5-year-old little girl that he dumped behind a gas station. Now, apparently, I want to see what I wanted, which is probably not here in this particular article because I have the wrong one. But what amazed me about this particular, let's see if I can find it. They call him homeless, but where was he living? Where was she? Where was the little girl living? The little girl was living. Come on now. Essentially, he lived with her mother, teenage sister. Wait a minute. Felix. Who is that his name? Wait a minute. What's his name again? I'm on the wrong thing here. No, that's Michael. Hold on a second. Hold on. Who's Felix? Oh, it gets even more. This is a whole nother story about this dude. Anyway, this 25-year-old was booked. Okay, they responded to a medical call at a Topeka gas station, and responding officers found a fire crew assisting 5-year-old Zoe Felix. Oh, that's the name of the little girl. 5-year-old Zoe Felix. She was pronounced dead. Felix's cause of death has not been announced, but neighbors said she was beloved in her community, but her upbringing was allegedly unstable. She allegedly lived in a house that did not have utilities, and she was sometimes left home alone. The neighbors also said they tried to help keep Felix, the little girl, bathed, clothed, and fed, even reporting her living conditions to local authorities. Desiree Miles, who lived across the street, claimed to the outlet that Felix, a little girl, lived with her mother, teenage sister, and a man who was allegedly a convicted child molester. Who's at fault? Well, first of all, the mother should be convicted. If she let a child molester live with her daughter who raped and murdered her daughter, she should go to prison. Secondly, if the community was trying to save this kid and reported this to authorities and they didn't do crap, they deserve something too. So here we have another case of a child who is growing up with parents who aren't parenting. I'm sure drugs are involved in this. I'm going to say pretty sure that massive amount of drugs are involved. But what a sickening and sad situation that is. And it just, oh man, just jeez, well, they said they went to authorities, and apparently nothing happened. And one of the problems we have that CPS deals with a lot of times is that when you're dealing with communities in a large number where people are doing drugs and they're completely messed up and they got kids in the picture, they're so overwhelmed with children in bad situations, children living in these conditions. They don't have places to put them in foster care. And they keep being told, oh, you got to try to save the family, save the family. It gets to be an overwhelming, messed up situation. But again, when you have children, in my opinion, once you have a child, that you are responsible. I've often thought that too often the parents don't go down with the child when the child goes down. You know what I mean? Your child's committing crimes, your child is being murdered, your child is this, your child is that, and you've provided all the conditions for that. And you don't suffer anything for it. I always thought that's just not quite right. I mean, maybe something else should happen there. Let's see what this is. Oh, let me talk about the Maya trial just at the end here. This is a judge. The judge in the Maya Kowalski trial is really pissed because apparently the family attorney is just not is just dragging this on, not giving information over to the defense, and he's like people are whispering about a mistrial because it's been like 3 weeks and the jury is like probably bored out of their minds and losing their minds. And so far, I see a whole lot of emotional stuff, but not so much solid information. I don't even know if we've gotten to the defense side of the case yet. But 3 weeks already, and the judge is like, starting to lose his mind. And the question is, what will happen to this? Will it just get a mistrial and then it starts all over again? This is such a frustrating situation, and this is one of we have an issue with the justice system. And I'm not going to do that one. But I ran into this really fascinating situation, which, of course, I've lost all the links to. But that there's another guy that was another felon who was convicted of a homicide, and he just had a judge say the case has been dropped, and so he's free. He's walking free. Now, interesting. When a jury convicts somebody, finds them guilty of a homicide, they're put in prison, and then for whatever reasons, now it could be legitimate that suddenly they realized that the prosecution was crooked or something, police were crooked, so they're going to drop the whole case and release the person. They're allowed to do that, regardless of whether the jury found them guilty. The judge can just determine that the jury never got to hear the evidence properly. Therefore, they're going to drop the prosecution against him, and therefore he can walk free. And in doing so, unless the prosecutors object, he's not going to be tried again. And it's happening more and more often. And I believe there's a lot of politics behind why it's happening now. So what's happening is a jury spends 8 weeks, 12 weeks in a courtroom, finds somebody guilty. And then 5 years later, some judge someplace, a judge says, yeah, we're just going to toss that out. Now, they can't overturn the jury's decision. That's not allowed. They can just toss it out, though. see, there's a small difference. You can't overturn it because then you're saying the jury did something wrong, that they were wrong. Oh, no. You can't say that. That would be like mean or something, or rude or unfair. What you can do is say, I'm tossing the entire case because the case should never have gone to the jury in the condition it was in. They did not hear the proper case in court because we're going to say that the police, this is one of the top things they're doing these days. The police, we found out that the police did not follow up on certain possible alternative suspects. Well, a lot of times, when you're talking about a homicide case, there can be 200 alternative suspects. And when you know you got the guy, you're not going to spend your time looking at 200 other suspects. But the defense will say, hey, there were these really two good guys I should have looked at, and they didn't. Therefore, they didn't do their job properly. Therefore, the defense couldn't do their job properly. Therefore, the jury never heard that there were two other guys that could have done the crime. And so they tossed the case. One judge tosses the case. So my question is this. I'm not fond of the civilian jury system, but what is the point of a jury system when you can overturn? Oh, no, you're not overturning the jury system. Oh, the jury, you're just throwing out the case that got the jury found guilty. It's rare that the jury found somebody innocent and they toss that case. No. They find them guilty, and then later on, the case is tossed. So this is happening more and more and more and more. The claims being from the defense, they get the Innocence Project and all those people to push that the police and prosecution were squirrely. And then some judge comes along and goes, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Case gets thrown out. The guy's let out of prison, considered not guilty. And then, of course, everybody runs around saying, isn't it wonderful that this poor this guy spent 20 years in prison and he didn't do it. And that's not necessarily so. So it's a real interesting thing that's happening where one judge is now determining things after the fact. So what kind of system do we have? Is this really a jury system? If one judge? Now, mind you, what's fascinating to me is it should be an appeal. I don't have a problem with that. If the judge thinks they did something squirrely, it should be an appeal. There should be a retrial where, therefore, then they can present evidence that supposedly was hidden by the police or the prosecution, and the jury could get the full picture. But there's not a retrial. It's just tossed. This is something new that's happening, and it's happening a lot. And I'm not sure why, but it's concerning to me because that does seem as a little bit like we're just doing an end run around the justice system. And how is that even happening? How is that even possible? But that's what's going on. All right, let me look at your comments. All right. Let me see if I can go back up here a little bit. It's why Adam Montgomery got custody of Harmony. That was really sad. Yeah. I mean, I don't, Harmony, obviously, Adam Montgomery wasn't a good human being, and Harmony suffered for it. But one of the questions a lot of times is when you are in a position to have to evaluate families that are screwed up all the way around, it's like, should I let them go this screwed up person or that screwed up person? Or should I give them to a foster family who might be screwed up too? It's a really not a good situation to be in. And it's very, how hard we have a time trying to figure out from outside of a case who's telling the truth. Well, it's the same thing for social workers, for judges and all that stuff. Because people, when you get into a court situation, a divorce situation, child custody issues, each side can push a terrible scenario about the other side. How do you know which one is true? Because you're just somebody sitting on the outside, and you're trying to guess which one you believe more. It's really a tough situation, which is just so sad that unfortunate children get born into these families, and it's a big fat mess. Let's see. As far as I think you're talking about the Maya case. It took many years to get the case into court, and it's an interesting thing. On one hand, this is what happens in our justice system, that attorneys can delay things for a decade. That's why it's almost impossible for normal human beings to sue anybody, especially big corporations, because you go broke before you even get anywhere near court. And if they've got the money, they can play this for years until they just drain you and you give up. So I'm sure the hospital, Johns Hopkins, they probably delay this as long as they possibly could. Interesting enough, it may have done them a disservice in the sense that Netflix put out their Maya, Take Care of Maya movie documentary, which was so highly biased toward the Kowalskis that the jury has now been tainted by the movie, the documentary, and they're now sitting in the seats. And so they might have done themselves the service by waiting so long, because if they gotten this to court earlier, it might not have become such a big thing in the media. So that's kind of their stupidity. Sarah says, but the defense actually intentionally admitted evidence that was specifically not allowed, so prosecution could have asked for a mistrial. And I honestly don't know. I haven't been watching every bit of the legal stuff because it bores me. It's from the outside, from what I've talked about before in all of this. I'm not fond of hospitals, and I do think that sometimes they are very aggressive and controlling in the way they do things. But on the other hand, I think that Beata probably was what they thought she was. So the question comes down to how much is the hospital responsible for Beata's suicide, which personally, I don't think they're responsible for that. Are they responsible for some other things which may be less than the best methods of handling things? Yes. Do I think the family deserves any money off of this? Maybe some. 200 million? I think that's extreme, because I don't think they caused the death of the mother, the Beata. I think Beata, her daughter was just hitting the 3-month point of the custody thing, and she kills herself like 3 days before and doesn't wait. There was a whole lot more things going on Beata that she made her choices, and the hospital thought that she was probably what she was. But again, I'm not fond of these big organizations and the methodologies that they use with the whole system. So I'm like on both sides. I feel something for both sides. But what they're going to be able to prove in a court of law is another matter. But oh God, a mistrial. Yeah. It's just yeah. It's not great if the whole thing has to start all over again. Lord Almighty. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to say this once again, Sarah. I know we're at odds in this. I don't want to continue with this. She didn't kill herself so her daughter could come home. That's just nonsense. She did not act. I do not believe she believed that. I believe she couldn't take the loss of power and control. I do not believe for a minute she thought she killed herself, and 3 days later her daughter would go home. That's not. She could have waited just 3 days to see what the judgment would have been. She could have done that. She had a lot of choices prior to that moment to work with them, to cooperate with them. There's a million things she could have done. She chose to do none of them. This is a sign of a personality disorder, regardless. And so I cannot blame the hospital for her choice to do something incredibly cruel to her own daughter. That bringing her daughter home wasn't the issue. Her whole thing was that her daughter gets ketamine. And so by her disappearing out of the picture, did not get her daughter ketamine. Her daughter never got ketamine again. And as a matter of fact, improved because she didn't. Over time, she became she's in good shape right now. That wasn't what it was about. And her daughter wanting to see her again, she denied her daughter the right to ever see her again. She took herself out of her son's life, out of her husband's life, that had nothing to do with her love for her children and her husband. It had everything to do with her loss of power and control. That's why I say she has a personality disorder. I think that hospital pegged her correctly. Do I think the hospital handled it as well as they could have? Maybe not. But then she didn't either. So you had two entities. One, a very controlling entity because they're a corporation, and another controlling entity because of her personality disorder. I think the two of them clashed. And so, again, go look at my whole analysis of the Maya Kowalski case, and you'll see I'm not overly fond of the medical system, even though I've worked in it. I liked working in it. I never liked being a patient in it. And I have had my issues with the medical system. And so, I haven't had a what's that, the yearly physical thing? I haven't had that since 1990. I don't go. Yep. Only way I'd end up in a hospital is on a stretcher, probably in a car accident. That's me. So I'm not very into the whole medical system. I had unintended home birth for my second home birth. Second birth was unattended. So I am not pro the whole system. I think it's corrupt. I think it's the prices are outrageous. I think the insurance system is nothing more than a mafia. I mean, I have a lot of negative attitudes toward what we have as a health. No, we don't have a health system. We have a drug system here in the United States. But then again, when I look at it objectively and see what Beata did with Maya, the choices she made were not healthy choices. And they weren't the choices, in my opinion, of a mother who was just trying to make sure her daughter wasn't in pain. She did a lot of things that were very questionable, which show to me Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So check out my whole thing on that. But anyway, that's where I'm at. Okay, so I said again, Sarah, let's not go into a whole big argument over this because I know we're going to go into it, and I love you, so we don't want to go into it. Let's see if I have anything left. I think that's basically it. I'm trying to see if I missed anything when I lost all of my things. I am so pissed at that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it just vanished. All you do is hit the wrong. It's like you hit one of them, and sometimes there's like a glitch, and it just wipes out everything that you have. And I had a couple of really cool things I wanted to share, and I'm trying to think of what they were that if I can remember them in my head, because if I go back to my history, oh God knows. Let's see if I can find a couple of the other ones. That was that one. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I'm trying to see if I covered everything I wanted to cover. If there's anything I wanted to do that I lost completely. No, I did talk about that, in spite of the fact I didn't have my stuff anymore. I talked about that. Okay, well, maybe I've got most of it that I want to talk about. Okay, I'm going to can it there. What a day. All right. So anyway, those are my thoughts today on the Hangout. Well, I'll have to go see whether I've been, let's see if I've been, continue being crushed. Let's see what horrible comments I have. How many horrible comments? Let's see. Will I issue an apology when Karen Reed is vindicated? No, I'll just block you right now. Okay. Hey, speaking of the original thing here, that my opinion has nothing to do with the person is legally guilty or not legally guilty. When I do a show and I'm talking about the evidence, for example, people said this on the McCanns for years with the Madeleine McCann case. Will you offer an apology to the McCanns when they finally arrest the true abductor of Madeleine McCann? All right. Here is the thing. I can say, as a profiler, I followed the evidence. This is what I believe the evidence supported. And apparently, if there's proof that you absolutely nothing to do with it, What would I say? Would I apologize for following the evidence and stating what I believe was what it supported? I don't think I'll apologize for that. What I would simply say is that apparently my analysis of the evidence was incorrect, and therefore I overlooked, or maybe I would apologize. Maybe I would say, yeah, okay, I'm just trying to figure out how I would think about this. Maybe I could apologize for, yeah, I guess I could say, I apologize for misinterpreting the evidence. See, wonder if you're wondering why I have trouble with this, it's this. A lot of times when there's certain cases, the reason that people become suspects is because of the things they do and say. So when you do and say things that make you a suspect, then I don't know how much I feel I should offer an apology. Maybe you should apologize and say, look, I'm sorry, I just made everybody think we did it because we acted in such a strange fashion. We did things that were not the right things to do. And therefore, we misled a lot of people into thinking we were guilty. So you can look at it that way too. There in the McCann case, I cannot apologize for the fact that there's zero evidence that there was an abduction. There is zero evidence. Could there have been an abduction? Sure. Sometimes there's no evidence, and yet it happened. That's true. But there is no evidence of an abduction. What about the McCanns? Well, their stories changed. Jerry McCann said he locked up the house. Later on, he says he didn't. His story changed. That's on them. Also, their bizarre behaviors and their refusal to even acknowledge the Smith sighting. You know, Smith people, the whole family of Smith see a guy carrying a child down the street at the time that Madeline went missing, and they don't care about that sighting. That's a red flag so high I don't know how to deal with it without saying that's something wrong there. There's so many things wrong with what happened with the McCann's behavior that, sorry, but if you're just such weird, strange people that you can't keep your story straight and you're not interested in finding out what happened, not interested in a sighting of a kid who could be your child being taken down the street, I don't know that I have to apologize for thinking you might be guilty. I don't know. That gets, those things get questionable. Now, there's other times when you could just say, I just I analyzed the case and I just was wrong. My apologies for being a sucky profiler on that round. I'm never going to be 100% right. And neither is necessarily a jury always going to be 100% right, or the police 100% right, or the prosecution 100% right, or the defense 100% right. Nobody's ever going to be 100% right. And I think when if after the fact we could analyze it and determine whether we were completely like we didn't do our job at all. We didn't analyze at all. I'm looking at the Karen Reed case. I've looked at the evidence. I analyzed it, and the prosecution has a case. I'm not saying she's guilty. I'm just saying the prosecution has a very good case. And the crap that TurtleBoy and his little minions are saying, most of that is just completely creative nonsense. So I can't see that there's evidence that she didn't commit the crime. I don't see any evidence that she's not guilty at this point. She has a right to go to court and it all play out. But where I'm sitting, the evidence does point to her. Now, if the evidence somehow comes out along the way that I'm completely wrong and oh my goodness, there was all this evidence I didn't know about, then I will say, well, that was information I did not have. And yes, I analyzed this incorrectly, not inappropriately, but incorrectly. My bad. Yes, I apologize. Sorry, Karen. I really thought the evidence did support your guilt. But I was, I didn't say I was right, but we took us to court. But I'm going to say, on the other hand, TurtleBoy and your minions, if Karen Reed is convicted solidly, are you going to apologize? Are you going to forever the next 10, 20 years say, that she was railroaded. And my guess is you're going to say she was railroaded. So, apology stuff gets, it's a tricky thing. I mean, it really is. All I can say is I do my best to analyze crimes just to help people understand how to analyze crimes. I at no point say that my word is the last word. And these days, everybody wants everybody to apologize for breathing. So I will apologize when I feel like I've done wrong. I will definitely do that. There are times in my life I have apologized when I thought, that was my fault, or, I should have been better. I'll apologize. But apologizing for no reason at all, just because you want me to apologize so I can make friends. No, I'm not doing that. So people are so tiring sometimes. They're just tiring. And again, they're on my channel and I'm not over on their channel. But, I'm just looking down here, see if anybody else is coming through. I'm not going to watch the rest of the thing on the other channel. That's trashing me, but that's just, oh my God, it's my fault. Probably. It's so tiring sometimes. That's very sweet, Sarah. I appreciate that. It's just, yes. Thank you, Sarah, for saying profiles can reach different conclusions. That anybody can reach different conclusions. What I want to hear from anybody who reaches conclusions is that they're basing it on evidence, and this is how they're analyzing it, and this is how they think, and this is why they think this. And then we can disagree, but at least we know why each person thinks the way they do. And I don't have to hate you because you think differently than me. I don't have to have you apologize. If I end up being right, I'm just going to go over to your channel and tell you, you better apologize. No, I'm not going to do that. But I don't like grifters. I don't like people who clearly aren't concerned about the truth, that they are dredging up stuff in order to make money and to be famous and all this kind of crap that they're doing, and taking innocent people down as they go. And that's why TurtleBoy got arrested, as he should be. And I don't know what's on his. They've taken his laptop, his phones, and all that. I'll be real curious to see what they come up with from there. But of course, his followers, his cult followers, and the same thing with this other fellow who's trashing me tonight. They're all saying that this is just one more example of corruption on the part of the prosecution and the police. But what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to sit there and let this guy go around and threaten people and intimidate them, all the witnesses? Are they supposed to let this guy just run rampant? Or at some point, can they say this can't happen? Because it's not his damn business. It isn't. She's got a defense team. Let them provide the defense in a court of law. Why is this guy running around doing all the things he's doing? Oh, because he knows she's innocent, and he thinks he has to fight the authorities and prove she's innocent because he's a champion. That's what people are actually saying. They think he's doing the greatest thing by doing this. She hasn't even gone to court yet. Why don't they let this play out in court? At least go with the appeals process, for God's sakes. But they're not even getting there. They are preempting this whole thing and going ahead and trying to essentially destroy. They're trying to destroy this entire trial before it even gets to trial. That's witness tampering. That's jury tampering. I hope they take this guy down. I do. I have zero sympathy for him. Zero. That's a good point. I mean, we may think we're right. I mean, we obviously we obviously don't, as a profiler or a detective or whomever else, we're not going to sit around and say, oh, I'm going to analyze this, but I'm probably wrong. I mean, we wouldn't go that far, What we would do is say, I've analyzed this, and this is what, since I've analyzed this, I'm determining this is the most likely scenario. This is most likely what happened based on evidence. We probably will think we lean toward being correct. Otherwise, why are we doing this job? I mean, it's like saying, well, I fixed your car, ma'am, but I don't know if I've done a reasonable job. Who says that? A doctor says, well, I'm going to give you this medication, although I'm probably completely wrong. No. Generally speaking, because we're professionals, we believe that we have the qualifications and the ability to do a good job, but we are not infallible. We are not. And especially in a situation where we may not be getting all the information that we need to get, we could definitely then be a little off on our conclusions. So they're not infallible. And there are some situations where the evidence is such that it's difficult to determine absolutely which way one should go on that. Sometimes you could literally say, well, this guy looks good and this guy looks good. They both look good as suspects. I'm not quite sure, where I'd go with it. In that case, you probably end up with finding either one of them not guilty because you can't prove it. But again, the whole point of profiling is to provide information to the police, an analysis to the police, so they can have better avenues of investigation, not so they can convict somebody. That's done in a court of law. Profilers don't belong in a court of law. We belong in developing avenues for detectives so they can find more evidence. It's like, okay, for what I'm seeing now, I would be looking for more evidence down here. And if you're pointing the right direction, they may get to the point where they find that extra evidence. And that is the stuff that will convict the guy. So, in other words, if you're going this direction, it's the wrong direction, you're not going to find any evidence. You can work all you want. There will be no evidence. And while you're doing this, the guy over here is chucking stuff out, getting rid of all the evidence. So by the time you get back from here to the correct place, it's too late. The idea of profiling, for detectives to do profiling well, or for profilers to work with the department and do profiling well, is to keep people. It's like, well, don't spend all your time down here. I don't think that's the right direction. I think you ought to be looking at this dude. And so instead of wasting a few months over here while this guy gets rid of the stuff, maybe then the detectives will go here first and they'll catch that guy before he gets rid of the evidence. Therefore, they can have more evidence to arrest and charge and convict. In that case, that's how profiling works in a good way. But we have a misconception about profiling in general. And so that's one of the things I hope to change over time. So, bye-bye, TurtleBoy. Well, we'll see what happens with him. He's already, he didn't have to he didn't have to provide bail or anything. He just went back home. He just doesn't have his computer. Apparently, he's still accessing the internet. Because he's already talking about how he's being more proof that the powers that be are trying to prevent the truth from coming out. And so he'll be on internet. He'll be on YouTube like every day of the week. So let me see if there's anything else I want to comment on here. Good night, Lex. Let's say. Okay, so I'm not going to go back to the Maya thing because that's Maya thing. I think it's going to be forever, a very contentious issue. I think both sides have some points. That's all I can say. But I'll stand by my analysis of Beata. And I still don't like the hospitals. So there we go. All right, that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. It's been a crazy day. It has been a crazy day, and I've lost all my stuff, so it made it even more difficult. So it's one of those. But let me go check out my teeth again. Yeah, those are mine. Yeah, I want some new ones. I really actually want some really pretty new ones. But, and I want to get rid of this. Yeah, that's true. Another 20 pounds. Oh, before I go, let me just show you my 5 levels of fatness. Okay, so I reached a point after COVID. I was what I call obese. All right. And I looked like a whale. So, I mean, people always want to say body positivity. Yeah, whatever. I looked like a whale. Anyway, or a walrus. So anyway, I was what I call obese. I've lost 20 pounds. So now I'm just fat, which is much better than being obese. And now I'm at fat level. If I lose 20 more, I'm just going to be overweight. And then if I lose, let's say that put me 200, 180, 160. If I lose 10 more pounds, then I'm at that point where you go, because 140 is my ideal weight. So I'm like 150. I'm like, I'm just a little over You know, I've got that last 10 pounds. You know, the last 10 pounds you can never lose. That last 10 pounds. And then there's perfect. Okay. What I consider the proper weight for my body. Perfect's a bad word. Proper weight. And so, so I've gone from obese to fat. So I'm working hard at it, and I'm hoping I'll go from fat to just overweight in the next 2 months. And then maybe I won't have those extra chins that were bothering people so much. But I'm still going to have the same teeth. Oh, Lord, I tell you. Stop fat shaming myself. The mirror does it for me. Let me tell you, the mirror does it for me. Oh my God. Oh, and cat hating, fat shaming and cat hating. I miss my Ziggy. You know, Ziggy. You know, my horrible, really, really bad cat. That died fairly recently. The house is very quiet without him, you know, and I do miss Ziggy, even though he was the worst cat ever, you know, but I did have very good cats in my life. Ziggy was just the worst. And of course, you know, here I was alone with him for 10 years straight. And he was like, well, now you're just stuck with me. But I do miss Ziggy. He's a beautiful cat. And yeah, but he's not with me anymore. So now I can just only fat shame myself instead of cat shaming. So yeah. You murdered your cat. Prove it. Prove it, Sarah. Prove it. Oh my, will I get another cat? I have no pets right at the moment. And I chose not to have any pets at the moment because once COVID ended, I kind of wanted to have the ability to, because I was so stressed out from COVID, being trapped and not being able to travel and do whatever I wanted. I decided that I would not get any more pets until I knew I was not going to be out of the country for long periods of time and stuff like that. I just decided I'd do a no pet time. So that's what I'm doing right now. I do miss having pets. I mean, I've always loved having pets. And of course, I want another iguana. That's my favorite pet, iguana. But I need a huge area to have an iguana. And I don't have that here. So right now, there are no pets in my house. And it is kind of quiet. And I'm kind of sad. It makes me kind of sad. Because I've had pets every day of my life since I've been a kid. I never had a day without a pet until recently. And so it's kind of just weird for me not to have them in my house. But I'm going to let it ride for a while. So I have a little bit more freedom to move around, do what I want to do. And then when I decide I'm not going to do those things or have appropriate place, then probably a pet will return, I think, at some point. Yeah, the mice under the bed. I actually caught the 11 mice. I took them all away to somebody else's house, and I haven't heard them since. I haven't seen a mouse since. I haven't heard any chewing. So I think I got all 11 of them. All 11 of them. Yeah, amazingly. What question did I answer? Didn't answer my question. What was the question? But if I murdered the cat, no, I didn't murder. No, I didn't murder Ziggy. No, every one of my cats has died a natural death usually in my arms or close to it. So, you know, I've had an advantage. A Bluebell Rose, actually. I live right next to my daughter, so generally speaking, when I've traveled for like even a month with just a cat, it was fairly easy because she could just come in. He was an outdoor cat, he had a cat door. So she'd just come over every week and fill up the food bowl and fill up the water, and he'd do fine. I come back, and of course he was mad at me for being away, but I was able to do that. But then I had other pets that took way more care, and those were much more difficult. But yeah, but I don't even know these days what's going on with travel. So if I'd ever get a cat again, yeah, you know, I probably would. I mean, you know, I've had cats all my life. I mean, you know, I've had so many cats. The first cat I had was probably 19. And from the age 19 on, I've always had cats. So yeah, and I've had up to 4 cats. Okay, one time 5 cats. I wasn't a cat lady. I had children there. There were 5 cats. Anyway, I've had up to 5 cats at a time. So, you know, I've had a lot of cats in my life, and they've all done very well. And I've had some Bengals, and I have some, you know, homeless cats I took in, and all kinds of cats. And most of them been great. Ziggy was just the worst. I can't tell you how bad Ziggy was. Oh my God. So no dogs. I've never had a dog. I'm not really a dog person. However, my daughter has 2 German Shepherds and whatever that small fluffy thing is. So there's 3 dogs right next door to me. So I take care of them when she travels. I take care of the dogs. So yeah, they're step dogs, I guess. But I know I'm not really a big dog person. This is true. That's why you have to get rid of the cats before they eat you. Oh my goodness, yeah. So, yeah, I love animals. I've always loved animals. Well, but mostly I'm a green iguana person. So that's. Oh, you had a Maine Coon. Yes. Well, the Ziggy was a half Maine Coon. That's why he was so fluffy and big. Yeah, Maine Coons are cool. So yes, I had 2 Bengals and a half Maine Coon, and the rest of them were whatever they were. One Siamese, and I don't know what the rest were. But yeah, everybody says if you're not a dog person, you can't be trusted. I've never been a dog person. I mean, I'll pat them. I'll sit with them. They love me. When I go sit in the house, every dog comes and sits on me. They just adore me. But yeah, I'm not really a dog person. I don't know. I'm a lizard person. I like green iguanas. I just love green iguanas. I mean, I think I was one in my last life. Pretty sure. He was big, but he was only half Maine Coon. So, but yeah. So, but yeah, I'm a green iguana person. I know it's always made me a weirdo, but I've had iguanas since I was 13, and my favorite was Abraham. He lived with me for 12 years. Traveled across the country and back. He was a 5-footer. Yeah, he was cool. I love iguanas. I don't know. Iguanas make me happy. I like to hold iguanas and kiss their little pink tongues. They got little spines. And everybody goes, yeah, iguanas. If Annie Haley were here, she'd understand me. But I've always been I've never been a particular snake person, but I've always liked different kinds of lizards and frogs and turtles and toads and those kind of things. So maybe it's because my sister was allergic to fur, and so I couldn't have anything with fur. So I started with little turtles, and then I got little anoles, and then I moved into rainbow lizards and then iguanas. So there's some reason. Wait a minute. But I hate my cat so hardcore. I don't hate Ziggy. I just mess with Ziggy. No, I still love Ziggy in spite of the fact he was the worst cat. He was the worst cat. What can you say? He tried to kill me all the time. How can he did. He always tried to kill me. I swear to God, I'm surprised he didn't do me in, trying to trip me down things and tripping down the stairs. And he was a very difficult cat. And, but he was my cat. So there you go. He was my cat. Will I take a lie detector about that love? Yes, Sarah, I will do that. Yes. I still love my terrible cat. And I never, all my cats, I never got rid of any cat. I always kept my cats till they were 17, 18 years old and died a natural death. And no matter what they were like. And so, yeah, that he did. Ziggy had a personality. I've got so many great pictures of Ziggy because he had a great face. You know what I mean? And he was, So I took a lot of pictures. I have tons of pictures of him. So for a cat I hate, I sure have a lot of pictures. Anyway, guys, let me go now. I'm gonna go to bed. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for the show this weekend. I'm still trying to work out some interesting timing issues. So the last minute requests, you can always throw them into me. But I'm still trying to figure it out. Somewhere tomorrow I'll figure it out. But I'm going to do the show on Saturday or Sunday. There's a bunch of activities and grandchild sitting that I might be involved in. So I it's the last minute. Can you do this? Really? So I got to figure it out. So anyway, hopefully we'll see you sometime this weekend. Bye.